Willowbrook was a state-run institution for children with intellectual disabilities. In the 1950s and 60s, it was a nightmare. It was built for 4,000 residents, but housed over 6,000. Conditions were squalid, feces were on the walls, the smell was overpowering. Disease ran rampant. Specifically, Hepatitis A was endemic. The researchers, led by Dr. Saul Krugman, found that nearly 100% of newly admitted children became infected with hepatitis within 6 months of arrival. The hygiene was so poor that the virus was practically in the wallpaper. This inevitability of infection became the central pillar of their ethical defense. Dr. Saul Krugman, a respected researcher from NYU, decided to study this. He reasoned that since the children were going to get hepatitis anyway, it would be better if they got it under controlled medical supervision. He set up a special, clean unit for his subjects. To study the disease, he intentionally infected healthy children. He took stool extracts from sick children, mixed the virus into chocolate milk, and fed it to the new arrivals. He then monitored their symptoms. His goal was to distinguish between hepatitis A and B and to develop a vaccine. Scientifically, he succeeded. His work was a breakthrough in understanding the virus. Krugman defended his work vigorously. He argued, these children were going to get hepatitis in the general wards within 6 months. By putting them in my unit, I gave them a controlled dose, excellent nursing care, and a clean environment. They were better off being experimental subjects than regular residents. This is the inevitability defense. It relies on the horrific baseline conditions of the institution to justify the research. It essentially says, because the state is failing these children so badly, my experiment is actually a step up. Critics argued that a doctor should not capitalize on a broken system. They should try to fix the system. The most damning aspect of Willowbrook was the coercion of parents. Due to overcrowding, the school closed general admissions. There was a long waiting list. Desperate parents, unable to care for their severely disabled children at home, were told there was no room. However, the administrators would quietly mention that there are asterisk spots available in Dr. Krugman's research unit if they agreed to the hepatitis study. Parents were effectively told, you can put your child in this study and get them care, or you can stay home. This is not voluntary consent. This is coercion. It exploited the desperation of families to secure test subjects. In 1966, Henry Beecher, a Harvard anesthesiologist, published a landmark article in the New England Journal of Medicine. He listed 22 examples of unethical research happening in prestigious American universities. Willowbrook was one of them. Beecher's article was a shock to the system because it didn't talk about Nazis or fringe quacks. It talked about the leaders of the field, like Krugman. Beecher argued that the drive for publication and grants was causing a moral rot in mainstream medicine. He famously wrote, "Ends do not justify means. You cannot use a child as a means to a scientific end, even if that end is a vaccine." Briefly, we must connect this mindset to the story of Henrietta Lacks. Around the same time, doctors at Johns Hopkins took cervical cancer cells from a poor black woman without her knowledge. Those cells, HeLa cells, became the foundation of modern biotechnology. They were bought and sold for billions, while her family remained in poverty. Like the children at Willowbrook, Henrietta was viewed as a source of raw material. Whether it is a child's immune system or a woman's cancer cells, the ethical failure is the same, treating the human body as an object for extraction rather than a subject for respect. The backlash to Willowbrook led to strict rules for pediatric research. Today, we distinguish between permission, what parents give, and assent, what the child gives if they are old enough to understand. Crucially, we limit risk. If a study offers no direct benefit to the child, like the Willowbrook study, which was for future knowledge. It can pose only minimal risk, defined as the risk of daily life or a routine doctor's visit. Infecting a child with hepatitis is clearly more than minimal risk. Therefore, the Willowbrook study would be illegal today. We can only expose children to higher risks if the intervention might actually save their life, like a cancer drug trial. Willowbrook eventually closed, but not just because of the experiment. In 1972, a young reporter named Geraldo Rivera sneaked cameras into the facility. He broadcast the footage of naked, filth-covered children rocking in silence. The public was sickened. This expose didn't just end the study, it helped end the era of mass institutionalization. It kick-started the movement to close these warehouses and move people with disabilities into community group homes. It reminded the public that when you hide vulnerable people behind walls, abuse, whether neglect or experimentation, is inevitable. This concludes Module 2. We have journeyed through the Kingdon and Bardak frameworks to understand how policy is made. We have walked through the graveyards of Tuskegee, Guatemala, and Willowbrook to understand why ethical constraints are necessary. The common thread in all these tragedies is unchecked utilitarianism, the belief that the progress of the many justifies the sacrifice of the few. Bioethics was born as a break on this impulse. In Module 3, we will pivot to the legal frameworks that govern us today. We will ask, now that we have rules, how do we balance individual liberty against public safety in a pandemic? I will see you in Module 3. For those of you who want to dig deeper, I highly recommend Bad Blood by James Jones for the definitive history of Tuskegee, and David Rothman's Strangers at the Bedside to understand how the whistleblower movement changed medicine. The frameworks from Kingdon and Bardak will be essential for your final policy briefs, so keep those notes handy. Thank you for your attention during this heavy module. These stories are hard to hear, but they are the foundation of your ethical authority as future leaders.